Hello, everybody. We are here at Laracon Day 2. We're going to do a quick recap of all the talks of Day 1, and then maybe do a quick overview of what we should be expecting to see today. With me is David Hemphill, longtime community member, creator of Laravel Nova, contributor to Tailwind CSS. Awesome guy. David, thanks for joining us and skipping out on your team breakfast to be here.
Well, thank you for having me. Also, shout out to Michael Dorinda, who would normally be here.
Absolutely, yes. So I'm sorry, Michael. I was supposed to have a cardboard cut out of his head with me, and I ran out of time. So, Michael, so sorry. I'm sure you'll forgive me. So we had some really good talks yesterday. We started out with Nuno, had some pest updates. We had Luke Downing with lessons from the framework, Philo, Mateus, Arissa, Colin, Daniel, and then, of course, Taylor, the keynote, which we're all super excited about. Any things just from the morning that you really took away from any of the talks before we talk about the keynote stuff? Obviously, that's what everybody's really excited to hear about, but what about the morning talks? What'd you think?
Well, I thought in general, the past 10 years, we've had all sorts of talks, but one thing is consistent is that they keep getting better in quality. The speakers are very well prepared and entertaining, and I think that was true to
I agree. Nuno had some really great stuff. The most entertaining talk for me was Daniel Colborn. By far, he was just a rock star. So every time he decides to do live coding, I just get so nervous. And he had a moment that kind of went sideways, and he brought it back. It was pretty great.
Not to mention they introduced a bug into the app as a bait for the talk, and that was a great twist.
Right, yeah, it was awesome. He just did a great job. So he drew us all in and then solved the problem and replayed all these events. So I'm definitely in on verbs, hopefully getting a chance to use that soon. A couple other things just for me. Pest was released. Pest, well, I think it was sort of announced. I'm not sure if it's actually released yet. The mutation testing looks really interesting.
Yeah.
We were talking about that. We got to sit together yesterday, and just sort of how code coverage sometimes can be a bit of a red herring. Like it doesn't actually provide what you think it does, and so some of that mutation testing built into Pest now is pretty cool.
Yeah, I have no idea how it works on the back end, but it looks. It solves the last piece of the code coverage, test coverage scenarios.
Yeah, I agree. The other item that was really neat, too, for me is some of the to-dos that he has now, which have been great. We actually just started using those in a Greenfield project that we have. Being able to link those up to actual GitHub issues and assign them to people as well, I feel like works really well for when you're spiking out like an application and you're not really sure what all the pieces are going to look like yet. But it's nice to have that right in your code base. Every time you run your tests, you got the to-dos and who's still got things assigned and where you can find more information about them in the GitHub issues.
Yeah, and being developers, we love being in our CLI, so being able to just output the tests or output the to-dos we have for a project is, developers love that. They love being in the terminal, so.
Absolutely agree. Let me see if I had any other notes here. I really actually liked Colin DeCarlo's talk. I felt like it was like one of those Reddit explain to me like I'm 5 sort of things, with AI. I was only sad TJ Miller couldn't be here to kind of tag team with or Colin DeCarlo, because they're both sort of in that space, and I know he's been on the Laravel Worldwide meetup not too long ago talking about some similar stuff. And so that was a really great talk too. Did a great job just sort of breaking down and explaining the terms that we hear a lot of times, like what's a vector embedding? How does that work? What is that about? And so I thought that was a really interesting talk as well.
Yeah, I agree. There's so many new concepts with AI and the whole thing, and I honestly am behind on all of it myself. And so with this whole wealth of new tools at our disposal, it's nice to have like that basic run through of what
absolutely
everything is.
I agree. I feel like I can go back and talk intelligently about it now. You know what I mean? I like to have a base level knowledge, so if somebody's talking to me about it, I can contribute to the conversation, I suppose. Let me see if I had any other items. I don't think I actually did have any others that I took notes on this particular set of notes. Let's talk about the keynote. So insanely exciting. There was a lot of really cool framework features. Maybe we should start with those, and then we'll talk about the last thing last.
Sure.
I know that you use Inertia quite a bit, like in your day job, and you have just used it in the past. There was a lot of really cool updates to Inertia, and I know, I'm trying to remember the 2 people that really contributed to the working on of that. It was Jonathan Rennick, of course.
Yes.
And then was it Joe? I think it was Joe. Yeah. And actually the way that they did it, they put together like a demo application, where you could where Taylor could show all the different features, which I thought was really cool. I've not seen that done before. And so they show like, hey, here's the Laravel code, here's the Vue code, and here's the React code you need to implement this feature. But like, what was your favorite new feature in the inertia side of things?
Oh, favorite.
Just give me a couple of them.
Well, definitely async requests. So like all reload requests are async by default now, which is great. And that, like Taylor was mentioning, it opens up the possibility for all the other features, like prefetching, which is really nice. You know, you're no longer waiting for, you know, the response to come back after you click a link. It's like almost there instantly.
Yeah, right.
The infinite scroll stuff was really awesome. I thought also the deferred prompts was really cool.
Yeah.
You know, that they're not there at the first request, but they're reloaded right after the page is loaded.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty some wizardry.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
going on
And like the API to be using these things, it's just so dead simple. I mean, it's literally exactly what you would think it would be. It's like inertia, defer, right? And then there's like a defer loading, and all of them too. It's like, you know, they'll have a slot for loading template, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all the things that you would want to create if you were doing it yourself are already done, and so it feels really good. The infinite scrolling was really interesting. So like it will like requery and then append to the existing stuff on the front end just live automatically.
No jank.
Yeah.
There's no weirdness. So it enables a lot of, you know, previously you could do that stuff, but it was like enables new use cases much more easily. I thought polling also, you know, it's a basic thing that we use. You know, a lot of people would wind up going from a normal inertia app and then you integrating something like WebSockets to have that kind of update. But now you can use polling, which is a tried and true technique in web development for years and years. I think that's really nice that it's now baked in.
Agreed. And honestly, it's just speaking to that group of people who, you know, if you need WebSockets like at scale, great, that's fine. But like polling will get you so far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can handle a lot of concurrent users with polling and have no problems at all. So no need to set up another service, no need to sign up for another subscription. Of course, we've got Laravel Reverb now as well. But yeah, it really does a great job of getting you a really long way down that road. The other thing that was cool is like that, it's like that visit, is it like the intersect observer or something like that? Intersection observer, where it will do that lazy load, but you can kind of give this buffer space.
Yep.
So you actually never even see the lazy load. You can say, when I'm 200 pixels above the top of this div, then start loading it. And so you just never see that load. It's very seamless, but you don't have to load it all on first page load, which is awesome. So very, very cool. I agree. Let's see what else we had here. There was a lot of stuff with this defer method just inside of the framework, right? Is that what you were talking about, or you were talking about inertia defer stuff?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, right. Yeah, but there was like this defer thing in Laravel now, which allows you to do like early returns if you have an expensive operation that the user doesn't care about, right?
Yeah.
So if there's something you need to go do in the background, you can defer it off to Laravel. It'll do its return, and then it'll handle whatever job you kind of kick to it. But again, you don't need to set up any queue. You don't need to have a database running. It just handles it on the request itself.
And that's kind of the story of Laravel in general, is that there's like, at the most basic level, in all sorts of areas of the framework, there's the bare minimum that you can do, and then there's just steps along the way to make the process better. So like, for a lot of your stuff that you need to do, you can use defer now, or some of the concurrency defer functionality, and then when you need to move up to a serialized closure or a named job or a batch, you know, it's up the step. You know, there's graduation steps all the way.
Yeah,
in the whole framework.
And like we said with the other stuff that was on inertia, that defer really unlocked a lot of other superpowers too, right? So the cache is one of the ones that comes to mind. So this new cache flexible method, where you can pass in a couple different arguments. The first one being how long should it live for, I think, the cache, and then the second one being how long before we should consider it stale. So I think there was this pattern of stale while revalidate or something like that, which I had not heard of before, but it's insanely interesting. And we sort of do that manually right now. And so, you know, a couple coworkers and myself were like, we can replace all of that code that we had written with this cache flexible now, which is a really, really awesome thing. And so the users never have to wait. You know, you always have that problem of somebody has to hit the cache. Somebody has to be that user to take that penalty. And now basically we don't have to do that, which is really nice.
Yeah, and instead of having to re-hit the cache and having cache misses, you just one person has to take
Yeah.
it for the team,
Yeah.
and then everybody else is just on the train.
Right. So
know.
no longer. We don't even have to mess with that anymore. I'm sure there was some other really neat things, but we're going to run out of time if we don't start talking about Laravel Cloud, so why don't we, right? So
Okay.
Laravel Cloud was introduced, which was really awesome. I would give you a chance to share your first thoughts before I say anything. What do you think?
It's like, wow. I mean, there's. It's just, again, the culmination. It's like the steps. We have Forge, for your most basic, bring your own server, your own VPS, and then you have Vapor for, the more serverless environments, and you're using AWS. But now, we won't even be thinking about this later. We'll be putting all of our projects on cloud, for basically $0.
Yeah,
just to start and just to tinker around, and then you can graduate to this whole, application load balancing. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to think about servers or anything ever again.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Taylor, he really kind of went back to the roots, right? He was saying, like, I want the developer experience to be like a happy place to work from the time you are local all the way to deployment. Like, I really want that whole experience to be incredible. And I think they're really targeting that new generation of developers as well with the VS Code stuff that Joe Tannenbaum has been working on, and really making that accessible to people who don't have the money to afford a big IDE like PHP Storm, and then bringing Laravel Cloud in where it's a $0 monthly pricing, and then all you pay for is literally storage. Like, you don't even pay for compute when it's in hibernated.
Too.
Sure, okay, bandwidth as well, but even at that, it's the cheapest option for any beginner to get started with, right?
Yes.
And then, like you said, it's got enough feature set that it can really scale out to large production level apps, right? He showed horizontal and vertical scaling at the click of a button yesterday. Pretty incredible stuff. And the cool thing is too, as I was talking with Tom yesterday, right? They've negotiated pricing with everybody, so like it really is very reasonable pricing for anybody who's interested in being in that platform. They've done a really great job. I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, they really get to leverage the economies of scale that Laravel will have with that to get like the lowest prices we can get. I think that's really cool. And so there's just a story now for the most new developer that doesn't even know anything about servers, and there's a huge there's a huge gap between the beginner and the seasoned veteran.
Yeah.
And now we have options for both ends.
Yes,
in the same
one
product.
application. Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna run out of time here in just a minute. Eric, the other Eric. Let's get both Erics in here. Come on in, guys. Let's get both Erics. Hey,
we come and look.
we got Eric Van Johnson, and we got Eric Barnes here. The other two, both Erics. Hey, everybody. Let's give a good Laracon Day 2. Welcome. All right, let's go. We're glad to be here with all the Laravel folks, and hope you guys have a wonderful day viewing the live stream. For all of you out there who can't be here, miss you, wish you were here, and hopefully we'll see you next year, everybody. Peace out. Day 2. Here we go.
I don't know if we've ever actually met.
I think we have.